I am so confused by this One UI 7 rollout. I want to talk about it. Let's go. I have now got 6 One UI 7 devices. The S23 Ultra just got the beta, and I just updated it to One UI 7. But the 6 I have are the S25 Ultra, S25, S24 Ultra, S23 Ultra, Flip 6, and the Galaxy A56. And the weird thing is, they're all different. And they're all really confusing differences too. There are, of course, some similarities, like the quick panel and the notification panel are all the same across all of these 6 devices that I have. And the vertical app drawer is also the same, where you can swipe up on the home screen and then continue swiping up to access the rest of the apps in your list. I do want to preface though that 4 of the 6 devices are on the beta. The S25 and S25 Ultra are technically final versions, whereas the rest of them are all beta, varying differences in their beta as well. But even so, they are saying that we're close to the final launch. So technically, most of them should be near the finish line in terms of their finished product. The first difference that I want to highlight is Galaxy AI. The S25 and S25 Ultra have parity with their feature set, and you can see that in the Galaxy AI settings menu as you sort of scroll through it. They're identical. The weird thing is the S24 Ultra, S23 Ultra, and the Flip 6 have inherited none of the Galaxy AI features that launched on the S25 series in January. Despite, I'm imagining that their hardware is more than capable to run most of them. No audio eraser, no extra drawing assist, and even the generative edit is not the same across the board. But then what's confusing is the Galaxy A56 did get some intelligent features. They didn't call it Galaxy AI, but it got a feature called auto trim that isn't on any of the other 5. And the whole purpose of auto trim is to automatically cut down dead parts of the video so it saves storage space. That's not on any of the other 5 versions of One UI 7. So that's one sort of confusing little tidbit, that there's just some variances, but it's hardly, in my opinion, the most confusing. We get to the now bar, and that's where things really sort of get mind-blown-ish. That's not a word. If I'm going to use the S25 series as our baseline, as our control subject, you'll see what it supports in here. It's got Sports by Google, you've got Maps, you've got Voice Recorder, you've got Clock, whole host of things that the now bar supports. And also, when you see it positioned on the lock screen and on Always On Display, it doesn't move. It sort of sits there confidently in a nice spot between the 2 shortcuts on the lock screen, and then AOD, it sort of sits underneath fingerprint scanner, nice and central. Also part of the now bar on the S25 series is the Now Brief, which I guess formulates part of Galaxy AI that I forgot to mention earlier, but I was always going to mention it here. Basically, it's just AI that sort of guides you throughout your day and briefs you on different parts of how your day is going. So far, it's really just the weather and calendar appointments and a couple other things here and there. Hopefully, as developers jump on board, it gets better, but that's part of it. The S24 Ultra largely gets the same now bar set of features, minus the sports from Google that isn't there yet, and that's 4 versions into the beta, and minus the Now Brief as well, at least for now. But this is where things get weird. The Z Flip 6 and the S23 Ultra share largely the same feature set as the S24 Ultra's now bar, but actually gains one that's sort of part of the live notifications area as well, the media player. This media player is evident in the now bar settings of the S25 series, but it's not part of the live notifications now bar settings, which, when we look at how this works, is it actually brings the media player into the notification shade instead of just the quick panel. And it'll give you a little, I guess, dock at the top to let you know that music is playing, and you can tap on it and expand it out without having to even pull down the whole thing. This is how it used to be on One UI 6, on every single device. It's weird that Samsung have only put it here on the S23 and the Flip 6. The S24 Ultra Beta doesn't have it, and the S25 series hasn't got it. And also the A56, that also doesn't have it either. I just can't wrap my head around it. Why this hasn't been implemented on the S25 series, and why the beta on the S24 didn't just have it as well. So hopefully, as devices get updated throughout the year, some parity occurs, but as of now, there's none. The other oddity too is the S23 Ultra is missing the voice recorder from its now bar list. This is obviously just a beta bug, and I imagine will be rectified, but still, it's a bit of an oversight. But then the other difference with the now bar that has really been sort of messing with my head is the placement of it. On the S25 series and the S24 series, it sits proportionate, as I sort of highlighted before. Nice and comfortable in that bottom section of the display, in between the shortcuts. On the rest of them, well, when you have them on always on display, they kind of just scatter anywhere. There's no real rhyme or reason to where they sit. It's almost like if they're in that bottom section of the screen, they're allowed to sort of move freely. It's kind of like they have the number 10 role on a football pitch, but they're just on their own. They're not playing with anybody. And then on the A56, because of the ridiculous placement of the optical fingerprint scanner, it sits far too high. And it's not just the always on display that it sits too high on, it's the lock screen as well. I just don't get it. It just, to me, defeats the purpose of the now bar and creates this really visually not pleasing, very unaesthetic design of where it sits on the screen. It's not really central. It's not really comfortable to reach. I just don't care for it. Then you've got the Flip 6, which for me, the now bar doesn't really make sense at all. That's going to spend most of its life closed on a table. I know I've got it open in this comparison, but it just really sits out of place here, which is odd. The now bar on the lock screen for both the Flip 6 and the S23 Ultra is fine. It sits where it's meant to. It's just on always on display where it has issues. But I think I've figured out why that is. It's hardware differences. The S24 and S25 series used an upgraded panel, which allowed Samsung to more sort of play with always on display. Lock screen backgrounds especially became a thing and meant that things could sit in its spot more consistently without the need to have them jump around everywhere. Because the AOD on the S23 and the Flip 6 and the A56, everything's kind of scattered. Nothing's really set in a nice place, and even things like the battery icon up the top don't really sit in that top part. They kind of move around as well. The next difference is the camera. And from a, I guess, usability point of view, every single one of them got that new upgrade. You can sort of have that more one-handed usage. The controls are down the bottom. You've got that 4-dot menu that you can access right down the bottom as well. All of them have brought that change, and it's a very good one for functionality and usability. It's a little trickier though with the camera features because of the hardware disparity across the board here. But there's one feature that I was expecting a little bit more from and a little bit more expansive is log. In the most recent beta update for the S24 Ultra, Samsung brought log video recording to it. The Flip 6 and the S23 Ultra got betas after that and didn't get it, which is weird because the Flip 6 has the same chip as the S24 Ultra does, but not the same camera hardware. But the camera hardware is the same as the S25 base model, so I don't really understand why it's not there. Whereas the S23 Ultra using the 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy also didn't get it, but is using similar camera hardware to the S25 series and S24 Ultra series. I just don't get it. Like, make it happen. It can be done. And that's kind of where I have landed. Like, I'm super perplexed by this whole rollout of oneui 7. Putting like the timings of the beta aside, the fact that it's kind of either been really long or sometimes they've had really short distances between the updates and then the rollout of the official launch, putting all that to the side just for 1 second, the betas that we have and the software that we have, there is so much disparity between the features on all of them. It's just very, very confusing. Hopefully when the final version does drop and Samsung kind of have decided what is going to go where, we get some clarity over things that are missing, or everyone just kind of gets the same update. And then the hardware features that you don't get, hopefully everyone will understand. But as of right now, it's a bit of a mess. Hit subscribe to Tech with Benefits. Lots of Samsung content, of course, still to come. And I'll see you guys in the next one. You!